Can you see my screen?
Can you guys hear me when I talk? I can't hear you. Can someone open their mic and talk?
Hello,
Yeah,
sir.
I can hear you.
Okay, that's good. All right, Salva, you did install your servers. You installed everything. Is that so?
Yeah, I installed my servers on install Ansible Navigator, but now I'm facing an issue to install the file that you sent to us when I try to install it, but I cannot install. I don't know why. I was trying to troubleshoot that.
Okay. Someone wants to join the group. Okay. Um, Let me see. Can someone integrate him for us? It's Farren Perry. I don't know who he is. But well, let me say he should drop his. All right. Great. So now let's we need to, if you guys have your Ansible navigators installed, today we might finally have to log into VPN to do some work. Might do some VPN work today. Log into the environment and do some work on VPN. So okay. If he drops his email, someone should pick it for me. I don't have enough time. Great. Since you all have your Ansible Navigator installed, let's run a few playbooks first. Guys, do you guys want me to ask you again to go to YouTube? Let's run a few playbooks. All right, so yesterday we saw just how we can run a few playbooks, right? and we said the various parts of a play book. Let me bring my whiteboard. Okay. Each one of you, your domain controller is up, it's working, right? And you have name resolution for everything. Is that true? Mimi says yes. Okay, great. Next week we shall do certificate, how to deploy certificates on Windows while doing uh, our RHCSA, our RHCE. You guys all pass your RHCSA. Now, while doing that, we'll deploy like a multi-tier certificate environment and use it. In such a way that Active Directory will have a certificate server where every user, every computer will have a certificate, will automatically be assigned a cert. We'll have our cert server working with Active Directory. That's building a kind of environment. Hmm. Oh, okay. I see you. Okay. So yesterday we saw the various parts of a playbook, right? We saw the various parts where we started by saying that, let me share my screen. Let me record also. Please, every camera on. Every camera on. Can you guys see my screen? I don't even know which one I'm sharing.
Yeah, we can see your mobile extend.
Okay, great. That's the screen I want to share. All right. Now, if I do ansible dash doc dash L. Great. Remember yesterday I told you about pre-built collections that come with Ansible, and they carry a lot of modules that come with them, right? For example, look at this. All these are different modules that you can exploit and use, right? So the reason why I told you guys yesterday about a fully qualified domain name of a domain of a module. So Ansible.built-in is a default collection that comes with Ansible-core. And that's why you see Ansible.built-in, Ansible.built-in does this. Now, another collection, if at some point we will start installing collections, and another collection might be maybe community dot something dot git. Now, if you go into a playbook and you just put git, Ansible will not know which collection it will have to collect that module from. Is that understood? We did this yesterday, right? Great. We started by saying we also stated that every playbook starts with 3 dots, right? Every playbook starts with 3 dots. Then you have the name of the play. Then you have the name of the play, right? We have the name of the play. Then we have something like the host. We have like host entries where that playbook will be run. We define the host entries where the playbook will be run, right? After that, we decide how, or we define how privileges will be handled by either become host and all the like. Then we have a section for our tasks, where under our task, we can have task 1, we can have task 2, and task 3. We saw all this yesterday, right? Great. And we wrote a playbook yesterday which had multiple tasks. Is that true? Is that true? Great. Now, what I want to do is I want us to go to like variables. We saw how to write a playbook, but now let's try with variables, right? Let's handle variables in a playbook. So if you want to use a module, for example, copy, let's just say copy, right? Or command, you can type Ansible, you can type Ansible. Oh, what's happening? I'll give it a second. Okay, let me just duplicate this. Is this the user I was using? Okay, CD to projects. I use projects. Okay, now we can type Ansible -doc copy. Okay, so there I'm just seeing the documentation of copy. You see, I can go straight to where we say examples, right? Or example. Let me search for example. Great. You see example right here. Can take this. I can take this example exactly, modify it, and use it to create a file. One, you can copy a file from the Ansible host to what? I can copy a file from my Ansible host to the destination HC, what? foo.conf, which is just like, well, example file. The owner of the file and the group. Then we have, I'm seeing 7 people online. Am I teaching 7 people in class today? Okay. So these are some of the examples, right? Now, for example, if you want to create a playbook or create a playbook that will copy a new ntp.conf file into place, these are all the settings that you can set. You can do a lot of stuffs with this. Every module has examples that you can actually look at the examples and it will show you how to use that module. Is that understood? Now, today we're going to see variables. We are going to see variables in Ansible, how to use variables in Ansible. You know, variables are very good and they are easy to use. For example, if I bring my IDE here, I can just say blue equals to 20, right? And type blue. Then when you type blue, it will come out. You guys have done this in Python. I don't want to start doing it. This is too small for you guys to see. You've done this in Python. You know what variables are. Okay. So now if I type, let's go into our playbook right here. Is Alan here? I'm not sure. All right. So how does Ansible handle variables? Variables are very important. And how does Ansible handle variables? Now, in Ansible, the way variables are being handled, it's a little bit different, right? It's a little bit different. One, you have valid and invalid variables. For example, um, I can't write this as a variable. For example, book shelf, bookshelf. Maybe this is wrong, okay? Or you want to write another variable, you say maybe you describe it, maybe blue cat or red cat, blue cat. This is wrong in Ansible. In Ansible, you can write, if I want to write this very variable in Ansible, what I will do is I'll write oh, blue underscore cat. This is right, right? You can use a dot. For example, blue dot something. That's wrong. You can't do that. In Ansible, you can't represent a variable with a dot. Dot this. You can start a variable with a numerical number. As you can see right here, you can't write a variable. You can write a variable and put maybe something like a percent sign. Maybe user at. No, you can't do that.
I think Salva in the waiting room.
Yeah. So you can do this. So now, if you can do all this, how do you define variables in Ansible? Now, Ansible is very funny the way it handles variables. You can define group variables. You can define host variables. You can define what? You can define variables in a directory, in a task. Then you can define variable as in commands. You can add variables in a command. Okay. So what am I saying? I'm saying with Ansible variables, you can define group variables. Group variables. Group variables inside an inventory file. You can do this inside an inventory file. Then you can define variables as group vars inside the same directory as the inventory or the playbook. So you can call it group underscore vars. Group underscore vars, right? Inside the subdirectory. Okay. You can define that as what? You can define group vars as what? A subdirectory, as a subdirectory inside the inventory directory, which I did not show you and I'll show you today. Okay. You can also define variables in the inventory. You can define host, right? Host variables. Inside an inventory file. I know this is passing like chemistry in school for some people. You're like, what is he even saying? Yeah, I see you coming. You just answered present. Okay. The next is you can define host variables as host underscore vars. Inside as a subdirectory inside the inventory directory. Then you can define host vars, right? To be discovered as runtime using host facts. You can use host facts, which is something that we will do later on. Fact. You can also define variables as what? Play variables inside a playbook. Then you can define variables under a task. Great. You know the way the ansible.cfg file works. This works the same. If you have a variable at the task level, they will be considered first before any other variable. For example, if I define a variable here and define a variable here, this one will be considered. Once it goes to the play variables, it will go to the facts. Okay. After facts, it will go to host vars inside the subdirectory of your inventory. You have host variables, host group variables. You have host group variables also. You have group variables, group vars, and you have group variables inside your inventory directory. Boy, oh boy, this is a lot, right? Who just understood what we said? Amina just understood what we said. Is that true? You can explain to us, right, Amina? I can see that you're very comfortable with it. Okay. Something that I did not share with you yesterday, which I did not want to share with you till you understood at least what an inventory is. You see, an inventory right here, it does not mean if I have my inventory right here, right? This is inventory. If I move this inventory to servers, let me move inventory to servers. To servers. O data center. So I moved it to data center. I make directory inventory right here. And I move data center to inventory. Great. Now, if I cut my ansible.cfg, it's still saying that the name of my inventory file is inventory. Well, Ansible is smart enough to determine and detect that everything inside here, be it a directory, it will go inside here and go inside the directory and search every subdirectory that is inside and every folder that is inside, and will still seal your servers. For example, what am I saying? If I VI to inventory servers, VI to inventory servers B, right? This is taking on everything, which I don't like. I don't like this. cd to vi dot vim. Let me see. Duplicate tab. Okay. No, this one's wrong. All right. Alan is here. All right. So the thing is, when I open my vimRC, right? When I go to my vimRC, when I want to create a new file, you saw it, it's naming everything. Well, I want my Vim settings to apply only to Ansible and not apply to everything, right? I VI to my Vim RHCE, vim.vim RHCE. Let me cd to .vim RHCE, cd, and VI to .vim RHCE. All right, here. Oh, I have it here. Okay, it's right here, but why is it not picking? Hmm. Okay, let me cd back to projects. Let me see, VI to inventory. So I name my server's data center. I want to name it now. Maybe I want to open a new list called London servers. Yeah, it's still picking. Um, right in here, I create a new group called London. Right, London. The IPs are like 192.168.12.10. I'm just taking an example. .10. I can create so many groups, but for time. So if I do Ansible -I, Ansible dash inventory, then -I, let's say inventory, or Ansible dash inventory dash dash, let's just do dash dash graph. Great. You see London right here? Do you guys see London? So if you have a directory and in that directory you put files, no matter how many files there are inside, Ansible will go through all those files and look for what? Servers. Now I can do Ansible -I and name a specific inventory file. Then you're going to see only for that specific inventory file. Is that understood? Great. Now let's come back to variables, since you understand now that you can have your Ansible inventory can be a directory. Well, it should even be a directory. Then you can have different files inside for different servers, or production, you separate production servers, they have their own files. QA servers, they have their own files. And maybe test, test has its own file location. Okay? So there are various kinds of variables. You have variables that you can put them at the level of a playbook. You have variables that you can put them inside a file. Then you reference them inside your playbook. Yesterday we created users, right? Yesterday we did create users. Now, for example, let's say I do create a file right here. So for example, let me say I do create a file. Yesterday we created yesterday we created a user. For example, let's say in here, I create a file, touch, let's call it uh, users.yaml, right? Let's call it users.yaml right here. Let's vi to users.yaml, and in here, I put in my 3 dots, right? Oh, no, sorry. Users.yaml. We just want to create, oh, let me name it well. Let's call it, we can call it uvars.yaml, which are like variables, which in here, let's define a variable. Let's say user is, let me say, user is Mark, right? User is Mark, and the home directory of Mark is maybe, let's call it home, right? Let's call it home slash Mark. Yeah, this just example of 2 variables in here, right? We have 2 variables in there. Now, if I want to create this, let's vi to a new file, right? Let's vi to this new YAML file called create_users.yml. Okay. Now, in here, I can write a playbook which references those my variables. Okay. Which references those my variables in here. For example, let's say we said to write a playbook, we start with that dash name of the playbook. Let's call it creating new users, which is a task that you've been given. Let's say you've been given host. Let's create it in prod or in test environment. Become, how should we handle become? Become should be true because we want to do super user stuff, right? Is that true? We can do vars, then we can add now vars_files, right? This is a variable file that we have vars_file, which let's say the variable file is what?
Mark.
No, the variable file. How did we call it?
Vars.yaml.
We called it vars.
.yaml.
I don't even know how we did call it. I thought it was uvars.yaml.
Yeah, uvars.yaml.
Yeah.
It was uvars.yaml. Okay, you can give the full path, or we can actually just give the name. If the file exists inside, within the current directory outside, I don't need to give everything. I can just call it, I can just give it directly without, I can just give it directly without uvars.yaml, because it will first of all look on that directory structure if there's anything there called uvars.yaml, right? This is a variable. Then I can now do my tasks, which on my tasks now, I can say, name my first task. Let me say creating user Joe, right? Creating user Joe, or creating a new user. Let's just call this creating a new user. Now, some of you see how we can use variables. Oh, let me just run it on all. on all. Okay. So creating a new user. Watch how much time it will take us to write one playbook to create a user, right? Why variables are important. Okay. So we are creating a user which will use maybe Ansible what dot built in Ansible dot built in dot what? We used this yesterday now, guys. Ansible dot built in dot user, right? Ansible dot built in dot user. Great. Yeah, you can go inside the directory within directories. You can do that. So let's use Ansible dot built in dot user, and we say creating a user. We can give a task, right? We can name things. You can use what? A comment to name things, exactly as you do with bash scripting, right? If I put a comment, then I just say I will be creating a user. This will not be part of, oh, this playbook is written by Jiftech. I'm so tired of studying that my hands are shaking. All right, this playbook is written by Jiftech. So that's a comment inside the playbook. It doesn't matter, right? Always, the options of a module always come indented inside the module. Let's say name. That's it. Let's say now we are creating the user, the name of the user that we are creating. Now I put my variable, which is user. Then maybe we choose the home directory of that user, right? We can choose the home directory of that user and give it a different variable, right? This is just an example of how to create a variable. Let me duplicate this. Hmm. Okay. Okay. It was uvas.yaml. Great. Let me clear my screen. So if I vi, oh, this one wasn't working. Great. So you can actually see my variable, right? You can actually see my variable in there. This is how you do set variables. These are variables that you can set at the level of the playbook. We call this play variables, right? I'm setting this at the level of the playbook right here. Another one is I can set a variable also by using just double quotes without double call it double what? Curly brackets, double curly brackets. Now, the reason why we are putting quotes, single quotes, is because We don't want Ansible to interpret this as if it's something that we are passing to the module, right? It's an option that we are passing to the module because at it exists before any other thing exists, okay? Now, let's just say we create this. So let's just say we create this, right? Let's make this and run it. Let's make this and run it. So we saw user and I don't want to complicate this because now if I start doing this, I will start adding more things. Maybe the state of the user should be present, and maybe I can say create home, yes. You can say create home, yes, to create a home, and you can give it where the home directory will be. That those are all the options that you can put in creating your playbook. So at the end, we might create one and run it. So this is how you do host variables. This is how you write host variables. And also, you can also write variables in a different way, which is if I go out of here, let me vi to vi to create b.yml. In here, I put my three dot, I do my dash name, like creating play variables. Okay. Host, let me say all, then I do vars. Now, the other one is vars underscore file. Now I do vars. I can do vars, and under this, I give my variable user. I call my user. Maybe my user is Joe home. Home is, or my user is green, maybe. And home is /home/green. Then I do my tasks. I can put my become if I want to put become, right? I put my become and I put my tasks. So you can see that I have defined my variables at the level of the play right here. I've defined my variables right here at the level of the play. That's why I say you can, but your variables can be in a file, your variables can be in a play, as you're seeing this one. All these ones are called play variables, right? They are all called play variable. Task, then I can go down and do my task. You know already how to do task. Create maybe users, right? Name. Oh, the module is user. Let me just use the short form, right? Name. And I put my variable, which is users. I close it, right? You put your variable and you close it. I doubled it here. Great. You see it always read like this if you're using the environment that I did share with you. That is, I am saying create the user green. So at the end of this, we'll write a playbook and run it, and you'll see how that playbook runs completely from beginning to end, okay? You'll see how the playbook runs from the beginning to the end. Great. So now that is how you use variables inside a playbook. which let's call it here. It will make sense at the end when we will start using it. Let's call this play variables, playbook variables, right? Playbook variables. These are playbook variables and how to use them. Great. Let's create this. And we go to host variables and group variables, right? Host variables and group variables. Now remember we said we wrote something somewhere saying that variables are in this order. Group variables, we have group variables, we have host variables, right? We have group variables and host variables, which are different. Let me see, which are different variables. You can set variables, group variables in a group. You can set host variables under a host. Where's my mouse? You can set host variables under the host inside your inventory. You can create group vars subdirectory inside the inventory directory. You can create this. So what I'll do at the end is, watch very well before I go down. I want us to use logic to understand this, right? I want us to go through all this and create the same structure, okay? To go through all this and create the same structure. Like, let me create user 1 here, user 2, user 3, user 4, user 5, user 6, and run a playbook. You'll see how, and give them the same variable name. You'll see how this one will take first. Then if we take out this one, it will take, the other one will take precedence. The other one will take precedence. The other one will take precedence till the weakest one will be considered. Okay, host variables. So we can write host variables inside the inventory file. For example, let's go inside my inventory file and write a host variable. So let me cd to inventory, right here. You see? So we have data center, VI to data center, right? Host variable goes on the host. For example, I can come here and I put my host variable to be, let's just call this ANS user, or we can call this blue underscore user, which is equals to, we give the username, maybe user, let's say user H1. Let's just call this user H1, right? And group variables goes on the group, right? For example, we have test here, right? We can come down here and we do test, which is a group. We know this is already a group called test, right? We do test and we put vars here, vars, test vars, which the variables of test, which let's do blue underscore user again, and do equals to G what? G1. Let's just call the user G1 because I want us at the end to see how all this will pick, right? All this will work together. So we have host underscore vars. We have what? Group underscore vars. Now, going back to our our definition, which I'll enter inside here to define our vi2.1, to define our variables, what we said about our variables. We said one, group, what? Did I paste something? Maybe. We said group variables are defined in the inventory file. In the inventory file. Do we see that? Do we see ourselves defining group variables in the inventory file? Group variables are defined in the inventory file.
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, the second one. Now, group vars or group variables, right, are defined group variables are defined in files, remember, not file, but files, in files inside a group underscore vars, subdirectory inside what? The inventory, right? Inside what? The inventory or playbook, right? Inside the inventory or playbook. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that group variables are defined in files inside what? A group vars subdirectory inside the inventory or playbook. That is inside a directory that contains your playbook, right? That contains your playbook or inventory. Now, our third definition is host variables are defined in the inventory, right? Host underscore variables are defined in the inventory. Which is just saying that you can define your host variable inside your inventory. Or else, what? Host variables are defined in the host underscore vars in the same subdirectory as the inventory or the playbook, which is typically the same thing here. So host, let me just call it host vars. Host vars are defined in the same subdirectory, right? Are defined in files inside a host underscore vars. host underscore vars inside what? A subdirectory inside inventory or inside the same directory that contains your playbook. Now we have that one defined. Then the next one that we have is host facts discovered at runtime. Host facts discovered at runtime. Remember yesterday I told you that when a playbook runs, you always see gather facts, right? That's the first thing that you'll see. It gathers all those facts about a host. Once it gathers the facts, then you can use that as variables to do different things. And we're going to use that a lot. Then the next one you'll see is play variables in the playbook, which we've seen. Play variables in the playbook. And the last one that we will see is what? Extra variables. Defined on the command line. It's like you're running a playbook, then you just include a line to add a variable, to override the variable that is inside the playbook. If you set a variable here, it overrides this one. You set the same variable here, it overrides. For example, the user can be Joe inside the playbook, but you want to run the same playbook to create user, maybe user parfait, right? Then I'll put my variable here and say parfait. It will ignore the one that is inside here and use the strongest one, which is parfait. Now, if you have it here and you put it here, it will do the same thing till the weakest one that's here. Is that understood? My people are not answering. So even this one right here, if I want to define what? Variables, I'll just do rel, then vars. It doesn't matter if it has children or not. Now, that was what this group that we just saw is adding what? Inventory, host variables, and group variables. That is host variables and group variables inside an inventory. So we just saw host vars and group vars. Host vars and group vars inside what? Inside INV, inside inventory. So we've seen the second group. This is group 1 set directly inside the playbook. Group 2 is set inside the inventory. Then group 3, which is using directories, right? For example, if I go into my inventory, let me go out of here. I cd it to I'm already inside my inventory. I make directory group underscore vars. Great. A VI to group underscore vars. Oh no, my God. Sorry. I cd to group underscore vars and I VI to a file called VI to var1, right? Let's call it variable group var_g o vars o variables. Inside here, we have, was it blue underscore user? Blue underscore user, which is equals to, let's say blue underscore user is, let's say it's G1, right? Let's call it G1. User G1. Let me cut data center. Let me cut data center. Remember in data center, we had G1 also, blue underscore user is G1. We've set the same variable, right? We've set the same exact variable, blue1, inside group called G. No, I would have said maybe GG1, so that we should know that it's inside a group. CD to LL, CD to inventory, VI to group vars variables. Okay, let me call the user GG1, but it has the same representation, blue underscore user. Okay, great. So I've created a file which we named it what? We named it group vars, and we wrote a variable inside. Is that true? Now we can also create host vars. Now, what if I create host underscore vars? Make directory host underscore vars. CD to host underscore vars, VI to vars. It doesn't matter how you name it here. And in here, let's say you put blue underscore user, which let's make that HH1, because the one in the host it's H1. Let's make this one HH1, right? Let's make this one HH1. Great. So we've entered our variables, right? So if I cut, let me say if I cut, let me CD back to project. So if I cut inventory, group vars, then var1, we see the variable inside. If I cut host vars, we see that it is HH1, GG1, right? But it's just blue underscore user. Okay, no. VI in here, VI to this. This will be confusion. Let me just call this group underscore user or grp underscore user. Wait, no. Blue underscore user, huh? And grp underscore user. Okay. So this one will be grp underscore user for the group. So that will test both things at the same time. grp underscore user. Okay. So now if you cut everything, you'll see your variables. We've just seen it right here. You can use the command line, as we rightly said, to override the variable. Okay, as we rightly said, you can use the command line to override it. Okay, now let's do some practical with these variables. Let's do some kind of practical with these variables. Okay, let's do some kind of practicals with these variables. All right. One of my servers do not have repositories. Let me deploy a repository on one server and use it. What server should I deploy a repository on? Okay, let me see. Do I have a playbook somewhere that I can use? Let me see if I have a playbook somewhere that I can use real quick. Let me check some of my playbooks if I have a playbook somewhere, because I don't have a repository in any of my hosts. Aye. Okay, let me see. Oh. All right, let me write a playbook. Let me just write one playbook here. Let's write one playbook here to launch a repo. Let me write a playbook to launch my repository, right? Let me write that with you guys so that we can, yeah, so that I can explain it a little bit. We launch our repository. All right, I'm in my project. Now, if I do Ansible all -m command -a, then I do a yum repo list -v, right? Then I do a yum repo list dash v. I want to check if I have a repo in my servers. Oh God, Jesus Christ, I haven't deployed keys yet. Dash K. Great. Let's see. Let's check our servers, our inventory, and see if we have repositories. You see, all my servers do not have any repos. Everything. Well, London is not even a server that's working. So you can see that everything is coming out, that there's no repository, right? I can use the same repository that you guys use for RHCE because they are all Rail 9 servers that I'm using, right? I can use that same repository. I can use that same repository. Let me see. I see 6 people online. Okay, let's see. Now let's write something to deploy a repository. Now, if I vi to repo.yaml, I want to deploy a repository. 1, 2, 3. What? Dash name. What do I want to do? I want to use this plate to deploy what? To deploy a repository, right? I want to deploy a repository. Host. Let me say all hosts. I want to deploy it on all hosts. Become. Will I use root privileges? Yes. For repo, you need root. Is that true? Become is true. Is that true? It seems like I am talking and people are not even answering. You guys need to be active, Amina. I want to see everybody's yes before continuing. Okay, great. Let's write some playbooks. Let's deploy a repository because without that, I can't even use variables well. You guys won't understand it well. I mean, let's say become is equals to true, right? Oh, true, it's your choice. Become is true. I want to become task under this play. Remember what we said the play is. Now, my first task that I'll be doing is I'll be deploying keys. In RHCSA, you guys did not deploy keys. You always shut down the key, right? You always say GPG key check equals to 0, which you did not deploy keys and all the like. But with the engineering part of things, you need to deploy keys, right? You need to be able to use keys, right? To check your packages,
I
to
have a
make sure.
question.
Question.
Yes, so to have to be able to ping our inventory file, we need to deploy the keys, right?
No,
Yeah, because since
that's
yesterday
what
when
I'm trying to separate from you guys. Key has nothing to do with Ansible. Key is just helping you for SSH.
okay, so when I try to ping my inventory file, it's telling me that public key GSS API is talking about keys. So I told you I needed to deploy a key or something.
Then host underscore checking underscore. You saw me turn that off, right?
Yes.
Okay. So now let me write my task. Dash name. My first task on my play is let me first of all start by deploying keys. Deploy what? Deploy keys. I want to deploy my keys to all my servers. To all servers. Let me deploy keys to all servers because I don't want to do GPG check equals to 0, right? I want to deploy keys. Which module can you use to deploy keys? Ansible.builtin.keys. That's .key, sorry, .key. Ansible.builtin.key. That's the module that you use in deploying keys, right? Then, what are the options of that module? Key. Key. I'm sure Prof. Herman taught you guys that there are some variables that come with the system, right? There are some variables that are pre-built variables that you cannot use it, or that you don't need to define them to use them. Is that true? Is that true? Something like item. Item is one of those variables, right? So let me just say item. Item. I am calling a variable called item right here. So let me add a loop, right, to loop the keys, because there are two keys. There are keys for maybe the beta and the Red Hat release, which will give you upstream and base OS, right? So I can loop those keys. Loop means go through this iteration twice, run this and run it again. Else I'll create two tasks. Why am I looping? If I did not want to loop, I'll just put the location of the key here. Then I'll do dash name task again and write it again. But I can use a loop to loop through this task, right? I can use a loop to loop through this task, and it does the same thing twice. Since I want to use the same module two times to launch two keys, I can just loop through the keys. It will come the first time, it will take the first key. I think my key location is http://exam. I think it's exam server. I think so. Dot gferai.hub. I hope it finds it. Dot gferai.hub slash. Let me just try and find the keys online. So it's http://exam server dot gferai.hub slash gpg. Great. I see the keys. You see, these are the keys right here. I have them. They are my own keys that I have stored them on my web server. So let me copy the key. You can be a web server, all of you, and you can add things to it. So don't look at this as if it's something new. Copy. Great. This is the first key. My second key is this one. Great. I've added my two keys. So I added a loop saying that go through this one time, run the first key. You go through the second time and run it. And I added a variable item. Item is just saying that once you run the first time, you come and pick this one. You represent the variable item by actually what you find here. The second time that you run the iteration, you pick this one. That's just all I'm saying here.
Give me a question.
Question.
If you had three keys, would you have to put loop again, or is it fine just
No, you
okay?
can just be putting your keys, lining them down and going.
Okay.
You'll loop so far as you're lining them, so far as it's a loop. If I don't want to use a loop, I want to use like a longer method, which now with RHCSE, this is where the difference comes with points. They see the way you apply your Ansible techniques in writing your playbooks. Okay? Now they look at that. If you do this twice, well, you will not have more marks as someone that did a loop. Because you added an aspect of know-how in your work. Okay, so we loop through the keys and the keys are right there to deploy the keys. Then, now, I can write another task. I can write another task right here. Dash name to deploy my base OS. You guys know this already. Deploying base OS repo, right? The module that is used is ansible.built-in.yum_repository. Yum_repository. That's the module that is used. Great. Ansible.built-in.yum_repository. Which under? What are the options under? Look at where my loop starts. A loop is not part of the module. Remember, the module has key that is right here, but loop is different. It's out of a module, okay? Out of that module. It's at the task level, not within. All right, so I define my next task, which I'm trying to deploy. I'm trying to deploy my base OS, which now deploy my base OS, I can just say, okay, deploying base OS, right? Or ensure, I can ensure myself that, because Ansible is declarative, ensure that base OS is deployed. Since Ansible is kind of a declarative kind of language, we're just saying that it should make sure base OS exists. Now, name, I can call it what? I can call it base. I can call it what? Base OS, just like the repo ID. Remember when we're doing this thing, just like the repo ID. Then description. Description now is actually like the name, what you name your repo. Remember we did this, right? Base OS, base OS repository, right?
We made a typo. Base OS repository.
I did what?
Typo. Yeah. Base OS, base.
It's a typo. It's a A after B.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these names depend on you. It doesn't even matter, right? You can put here Michael's repo, you can put here what you want. So, because I'm saying this because I don't want you to go cramming. So now we have the base URL. Who does not know this? Base URL. We all know this. My base URL is this. You had this same base URL during the exam. Maybe I use IPs because that time you did not understand DNS that much. Now you understand DNS better. File. The file that will be created in yum.repo.d. I can call this custom. I can call this custom. It will add .repo there for me. I don't need to add it. Enabled. Who does not know this? Enabled is yes. Who does not know this? Enabled is yes. And GPG check is yes. It's not false because I've deployed keys, right?
Is this same thing with 1 or 0?
Yes. Same thing
Okay.
with 1 or 0, but use true or false.
Okay.
Prof, there is a typo. You put enable.
Thank you. Enabled. Enable is equals to yes, right here, right? Next. What will be next? What will be next? You guys know already what's next. What is next?
Upstream. Oh,
Great, upstream.
yeah.
Let me try to gain time. Now, you see that with Ansible, it's a little bit tough to copy, especially when I've modified it to add those lines. Okay, vi to repo.yaml. Great. Ah, God, Jesus Christ. Okay, great. So I just modified this to base upstream. Remember we did this. Upstream. The same module. I just modify this to app. I can call it upstream. The same way, we'll go inside and you'll see how the file is created. Upstream OS, any word. Then here we change this to upstream. Upstream. This must be right, or else you have an error. That's all.
The slash, I think it escaped from the site
Where?
for the upstream.
What escaped? Which line?
Oh, okay, yeah, I think it was okay. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Mhm.
So now this playbook has how many plays? Hello, this playbook has how many plays?
Four.
It's just one, right?
Two. Mhm.
1, 2, 3.
This playbook has how many plays?
3.
That's good. Who said that? That's nice. Who
Modibo.
said it?
Modibo. It's Modibo.
My brother, you have to be smiling. You have to be smiling. Great. So this playbook has one play, which is right here. How many tasks?
That's 3 tasks.
3 tasks. There's something called a multiple playbook. Now, we can turn this into a multiple playbook by doing this. Since you don't understand what a play is. Dash name. Now, this is a second play that's entering. Dash name. Check if repo is installed. Host. I put local host. Local host now is what? Is the actual server, the Ansible controller. I want to see this result on the Ansible controller. You see, this will not run on the Ansible controller. This task will run as part of this play. But now, do I even need, I already have my repository on my controller because I registered it on Red Hat. So I don't need to deploy this on my controller. Is that true? Is that true? So I can write a different play that will run only on localhost, right? That will run only on localhost. That might run an Ansible command. That might run a command to get everything. Or it might run something else to do a yum repo list on my Ansible host. You actually see my stuff on my Ansible host. Or I can run a playbook right here using the command module that will go and do a yum repo list on the other servers. So no, this will take too much time. I don't want to be doing this. Let me deploy my repository and okay. Ansible dash playbook. Ansible dash playbook. What was it? Repo.yaml dash check. Okay, great. I like this. I wanted this to happen since yesterday. It's not. You see, I have an error. It's telling me, hey, error. Never be scared of an error. Couldn't resolve module action ansible.built-in.key. This often indicates a misspelling, missing collection, or incorrect module name. Okay, great. You see, when there is an issue, remember what I was telling you about the fully qualified domain name of collection Ansible modules. It's telling me that it couldn't resolve. Whenever you're working with Linux, when you see couldn't resolve, just know it is kind of a hostname kind of thing. So that means this module is wrong. The name of this module is wrong. And as it happened, it's telling me that my error seems to be on line 8, column 7. So if I vi plus 8, which will take me directly to the line, repo.yaml, you see, it's telling me that my thing is it's coming from this task. My error is coming from this task, which I can just now correct it and put the right thing, which is dot rpm. Oh, Lord Jesus Christ. Insert build in dot rpm underscore key. That is the name of the module. I save now.
How do we
Now,
research those names?
what?
How do we research those names?
How do we research them?
Yeah, the modules, the built-ins.
Ansible-doc-l.
Okay, cool.
Pipe and grep for. Something is wrong with this thing. Once I do Ansible doc, this thing stops.
Professor, how
Yeah.
do you make the determination of when to run Ansible Playbook or Ansible Navigator? Because I've seen on examples online that people use them interchangeably.
Yes. You can use either or. Okay.
And it will not hurt us again in the RHCE exam.
In the RHCE exam, run Ansible Navigator.
Okay.
Okay. Run Ansible Navigator. Because that's what they want you to run, anyways. With
Right.
it's
Thank
not
you.
like they'll penalize you if you run Ansible. I don't know why my screen is getting stuck some kind of way. I don't know what's happening to this mobile stem nonsense. So Ansible-playbook repo.yaml -k capital K. Great. Gathering facts. I told you this will always run first. Remember we said with some inventory, it'll gather all these facts, then you can use it as variables. Great. It was unable to reach this because this is just a fake server. It's not, it doesn't even exist. Great. Deploy keys. You can see that it deployed all keys. Deploy base OS. It did. It deployed everything. Now, let's test. Well, let's go to one of those servers and see if it created. Remember, we said it should create a file. Let's cut our playbook. Cut repo.yaml. We said it should create a file called, what was it? Custom. It will add .repo there for us. So if I SSH to, oh God, what's this nonsense now? No, not this server. Now, if I SSH2, let me su-job first. Now, if I SSH2 node 1, SSH2 as Ansible, what did I use? Was it Ansible or what? Okay, SSH as Ansible at this node right here. I give the password. I do sudo -i. I'm now on node 1. I clear my screen. I cd2/etc yum.repos.d. I list. Do you see custom.repo? That was created by Ansible. If I cut custom.repo, can you see, is it not, this is the base OS thing, base URL, enabled 1, GPG check 1, name, this, and it added the keys under the PKI directory in etc. Now, going back to our controller, we just wanted to see. So this is what we did. We set name base OS, which you can see it right here. Oh God, Jesus Christ, I hate this. Okay, so you see it right here. You see what it did on all the servers. Now, if I do right here, still on my controller, I can check all the 5 servers. I can do now Ansible all, or I can check the rel group, Ansible rel -m command -a, and I do yum repo list -v. I'm always forgetting that I've not deployed keys. Because I didn't do this because I don't want you guys to think that you must have keys to run Ansible. Separate those two things. Great. These are all my servers. You can see all of them now having repository. Before they did not have any repository. Now you can see that every server, node 1 has its repository, node 2, the node 4 repository is there. Every server is good now. Great. All of my servers now have repositories. Now, that means I can create something with a variable to even install things, right? Now, let's say I want to create a file to deploy some stuff. Let's say I vi2, let me vi2 install .yaml. In here, I do my 3 dot dash name. Let me say I want to install a web server in the test environment. Host test, right? Then host test. Then now I can do vars to set play variables. I can do vars, right? Vars here, I can say web OW, web underscore, let's just say web underscore PK, which is package, right? Web underscore package. Let's call that, we want to install something like HTTPD, right? HTTPD. Now we can install also something like Nginx also. but start, I mean, it's a choice. I don't know. Then we can call FL underscore PK, which is maybe the firewall D package, which is firewall D. Let's make sure firewall D is installed for firewall, right? We can do now service to start and stop services, right? Let's make sure that the services are started. We can do that by saying maybe let's call it wserve, which is the web server serve. It will be HTTPD that will be starting, right? fserve, which is the firewall service. fserve, which is equals to, let's say it's firewall D. That's the service for firewall D, right? I don't know even if I should add a rule. Should we add a rule? Firewall rule. No, let's just keep it simple. Let's just install that's it. No, let me add a rule. All right, let's just add some kind of a rule, man. Guys, sorry. The rule is let's add HTTP, right, as a rule. The HTTP, so that you open the firewall. Become, I can go behind. Ooh, error. You guys saw me committing this error and just allowed me, huh? Great. So they are all behind here. Part of what? They fall all under vars. Let's do become, which let's say our become is true, right? Become is true. Then let's define our tasks. Great. What are our tasks? The first task, let our first task be installing what? Packages. Who still remembers that our loop command? Who remembers that our loop command? Hello? You guys don't remember it again? I mean, it doesn't hurt to add AutoFS.
Loop colon.
It doesn't add to add AutoFS. Something like AutoFS. Let's add auto, which is equals to AutoFS.
You said the AutoFS command?
No, our loop command. I said loop.
Oh,
Now,
great.
what do we use to install? We use yum, right? either yum or DNF, DNF in like rel9 and all the like, either yum or DNF. Ansible dot built-in dot DNF, right? Ansible dot built-in dot DNF or yum, your choice, but use DNF. Just practice to use at least. The other one is changing. Name, the name of the package we want to install, right? The name of the package that we want to install. You see, I can even do this. I can list the packages. With the packages, you can list them without actually, especially with DNF. With DNF, you can actually list the packages without actually doing a loop. So I can copy the first one that I want to install, put here, close the bracket, which is that the second one I want to install, let's call it firewall D, right? The third one I want to install, let's call it, it's what? Let's call the variable. Let's call AutoFS. Oh, sorry, Auto. Great. We've called the three that we want to install. State. Let's make the state to be latest. Great, that's all. Then this will install my three packages. Then after that, I can start the service, right? I can start and enable the service for this.
Sir,
Yes.
I thought it was Ansible built in that DNF.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Built-in .dnf. Right. When I'm explaining, at times I'll miss stuffs because I'm thinking and talking at the same time. So ansible.built-in.dnf. Thank you for catching that. Dash name, the next package that we might take, right, is we can have Ansible, let's say, starting services. Okay. So we use ansible.built-in.service, right? Ansible.built-in.service, which has as options name. Now this doesn't work for, this does not work for, we can't list stuffs like this for service, it won't work. So what I can do is I can use my loop. If I don't use a loop, I'll have to create three different ones. Should we create three different ones or use a loop?
Can we go with the loop?
Great. We go with the loop and we say item. This is like a pre-built variable, an inbuilt variable. Item, state of the item. The state should be started, right? Enable, sorry. The state should be started, then enabled. Let's enable it. Enabled should be true. Should be enabled, right? And what item? We don't even know the item yet. What item? Well, that's when I'll call my loop work. I want to loop some items. I loop oh boy. I loop my variables right here. I loop this. Oh, sorry. I loop web serve. I loop
You forgot the
row.
space at
Thank
web
you.
serve.
I loop the last one, which is auto, right here. So another person asked if you can loop more than 2 things. I loop all these stuffs, right?
Question, Prof.
Yes.
Instead of putting every variable, is it possible to use something like var.item
Yes.
to have item? Okay, okay.
Yes.
Was just to be sure.
Yes, you can do that. But if you throw that right now, a lot of people will.
Yeah, it was just
They
for
need
me
to.
to
Okay.
understand, to
Yes,
know
you can
if
put
it was correct.
var.item.
Okay.
At some point, we will do that. We'll use that at some point, but that's really when you start using roles and important stuffs.
Okay, Prof.
Okay, so now we've added that, right? Then the next thing that we can add is, let's make sure that we can make sure that we can create, let's create time is gone. We'll finish this. Okay. All right, let's quickly do something. Let me create something like, no, I don't even need to create it. Yeah, no, I will not create it. I'll just write it. I'll echo something into this is my web server. Yeah, I'll just echo something. All right. Echoing, let me say placing my web content, right? My web content. Placing my web, placing my web content. Now, what will I use to echo? I'll use ansible.builtin, builtin.copy, which ansible.builtin.copy, I'll have what? I'll have something like the content of what I want to do. The contents of what I want to echo. You use ansible.builtin.copy to do things. How do I know that? Well, how do I know that? If I save this and go out and do ansible-doc copy. It's always good to write the whole name. Don't be doing things like me. I go straight to examples. You see? Copy files. Copy stuffs, copy, you can do this, you can search for content. You see? This is how I know what to do. I can write my content, this is this, and send it to a destination file. It's not cram work. At least when you look at the modules, it tells you exactly what to do. So content, let's write something like, what should I copy? Right. This is my web server deployed with Ansible. Great, this is our contents. Where will our contents go? Our contents will go to the destination of /var /www/html, and we will call it index.html. We'll just throw it in there, right? That's all. I can add another play now to open the firewall rule. -name, which is equals to open firewall. Open firewall rule. Great. And we are using ansible.posix.firewalld. Remember, you see, now this is not ansible.builtin. Imagine that you had used just firewalld. and the Ansible.built-in has firewall D and POSIX has firewall D, what will happen? The Ansible would not know which one to choose. Total confusion. So, but we will see if we have this collection or not. We have a module, a collection that serves this module. You might not have it, but let's just try to open it. So, now service, right? The service, something that I want to open. I want to open a service. I want to add a firewall rule for a service. There's even an error here. You guys are my eagle eyes, but I'm still the one seeing all the errors. How? Right.
You forgot a
Rule
space on line 18.
in line 18. Space.
The web package, curly brackets.
Great. That's why I say you guys are my eyes. Great. You see, without this, it becomes very difficult to write your Ansible stuff. I like seeing, let me see how, you see this defines. So how many plays have we written so far?
I see 5.
Good. Leon sees 5. Leon really got eagle eyes. Leon can see 5. Komi can see 1. Great. Mimi can see 1 play and 5 task. Great. Great. Alex can see 1. That's good. Now, rule. That's the rule. Permanent. Let's make the rule permanent. Permanent should be true. And immediate. Immediate should be true. State should be
True type.
enabled. Great.
Type 1 on true.
Good. Immediate and state should be enabled. Great. According to this, if we run this on our, I think I had a group called web server. Did I? Let me exit from node 1. Exit. Okay. Card data center. Did I? Okay, yes, web server. Let me change it and run it on web server instead. Web server. Yeah, great. Good. So this is all good, nice and rosy. Now let's add a second play. In our second play, let's do dash name. Let's do dash name for our second play, which is curl. We want to call our web server host, local host, which will be the Ansible controller server. Become is false. I don't need become to false. I don't need root privileges to do a curl. Is that true? Then tasks. So each play has its tasks. Tasks for this play. I can now do dash name for task 1. Curl localhost, right? Curl localhost Ansible dot built in dot command. I want to use the command module. Ansible.building.command. Then I curl node 1, curl node 5, O, curl node 5. Our web server is node 5. Node 5 dot lab dot example dot com. Okay, I want to run this command. Curl http 2 dot slash slash node 5 node 5 thank you dot lab dot example dot com. Great, let's save our playbook and do a check. Ansible dash playbook install .yaml dash check. All right, error module ansible.posix.firewall.d. I knew this module is not there. The ansible.posix collection is not there. It says I cannot find this module ansible.posix because Ansible only comes with built-in, right? It doesn't come with POSIX. It comes only with built-in. Let me see, Ansible-Galaxy collection install Ansible.POSIX. This we'll see it someday. You'll see this someday, okay? So I just installed that collection, but don't worry about collections. You see it someday. Just check. You see? Now it's actually, oh, it said what happened with node 5, permission denied. Dash K. Now it's not throwing, now it can see POSIX.firewall.d. Great. It will still fail because I haven't given the root password. Installing task will say permission. I'm running a dry run. Oh, okay. Did I give it? Oh, it's a dry run. Okay. Starting service. You must start. Okay. So what's happening? It said failed, not 5. Let me see. Ansible loop var item change false item is message could not find requested service HTTPD. Could not find requested service HTTPD. Okay. Item HTTP. Wait, did I put 2 items? Let's go in and see. Cat inventory, cat installation to the YAML. Rule HTTP. Okay. Rule right here, which is rule here. Web serve is HTTPD. It says cannot find it. Why? Let me see. Let me run it again and see. With dash K. Let me see. Okay, there are 3 things. AutoFS, it can find AutoFS, but it cannot find HTTPD. Could not find the requested service HTTPD. Oh, okay. Could not find the requested service just because maybe the installation is not yet there. So the service is not there. I think that might be the only reason why it's failing. Could not find the requested service. Right, because there's no HTTPD because this has not actually installed. Now let's run it properly and see. Let's remove dash dash check. Okay. gathered facts on the web server, which is node 5. Installing packages. Packages are installed. Now starting services. You see, now it says HTTPD. Okay, great. One failed. What failed? Item HTTP. Did I add any item there called HTTP? Starting services. Services started. What happened to play 2? All right. Let me see. Change
I
one.
think you use the HTTP for the services to open it on the firewall.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm tired, guys. Ansible of building. So this one. Oh,
9.
I see it here. I see it here. This would have been something else. This was supposed to be firewall underscore this. I went and did rule. Because rule is supposed to come right here. Let's run it again. This is what is good with Ansible. You can run one thing 20 times. Okay, you see now it's already installed. You just keep it. The other one is installed. Firewall is installed. The other one is installed. Placing the web content now. Okay, something is wrong with the web content. It says var ww. There are 4 W's. So when you see errors, don't be scared of them. You see there are 4 W's right here. My eyes. I have 10 eyes, more than 15. We have more than 24 eyes.
So the white line, it is a little disturbing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
This white line, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I know.
but it is good to see the indentation.
I mean, when you become pros, you will not need the line no more. Because you have 30 assignments this week.
Okay.
You have so many playbooks that I'm just like, oh boy. I hope there's no other error. Okay, placing my web content. It did. Task opening firewall rule. Firewall rule open. Okay, it has finished the task. Great. Now, okay, this will bring, I like this. This will give you like some kind of, you see, now if we're going through everything that happened, you see that it started from play 1, which is right here, which was to install web servers. It installed the web server. It gathers facts on the node to make sure the node is reachable. Installed all the packages, right? Then when it failed, we ran it again. Placing web content. Well, when it failed, we did run it again. Let's just go with this one, sorry, from here. Okay, so play 1 started and it gathered fact. Everything was already installed because we had done it so many times, right? Now, placing web contents. The web content was placed. Task. Opening firewall D, which it added the firewall rule after we installed the Ansible collection that was supposed POSIX, the POSIX collection. Then play 2, you see, it goes now to play 2, which is the second play within the playbook. Task, gathering fact, gathers the fact of localhost, which is this server. task, curl localhost change. Yes, it did curl localhost. It was successful, but you and I did not see it. Right. My goal was to see it, but I don't see it. How? I don't see it at all. Because Ansible actually tells you if it was successful or not, but it doesn't print you the output of it. It does not print you the output of it. Okay? Now, which leads us to our next topic, which is managing facts. Right? Managing facts. How do you manage facts? Yes, I gathered something, it came out. Then I did not see it. Normally, if I curl my HTTP //node5 node5.lab.example.com what was it again? Let me cut the playbook. Cat install.yaml. It was this. Okay, let me curl this. You see, I see it. This is my web server deployed. If I copy it and I bring my browser right here, I bring my browser right here and I drop it. You see it. This is my web server deployed with Ansible. It's working, right? Okay. Your first assignment will be how to, you do this very playbook. You create your own online repository location that you serve to all your servers. Then you actually add your own keys that will be downloaded. Then when you do everything, you print your own playbook. The difference with yours is that when you print it, you'll be able to register the fact and print out the fact so that it shows here on this summary. And that takes us to the end of all this today. Next week, we'll continue with more variables, and the more we go, you'll see variables and how to use them better again. Are we good?
Little bit.
Yes,
What is
sir.
it, Komi? Komi, what is it? It's easy?
No good.
Not really, but
It's crazy.
How are we
hopefully,
going to build the online repository?
hopefully
It's
within the
crazy,
time
man.
we got the process. But now it's a little bit tricking.
I think we went from 0 to 100 today.
What? Really?
This is the real deal now.
No, I thought we went really easy though.
I was told like it's a movie, but yeah, think.
Really?
I think it'd be better when we actually do it ourselves.
On sera ingénieur après ça, prof. On sera ingénieur. Et c'est ça, c'est le
This
haut
tool is
niveau.
amazing. Wow. This tool is amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
So, I'm not gonna give you
Then again,
one line and say I've taught you Ansible. You guys know the way I teach.
Yeah.
It's not like